Morning. Well done on finding the room. It took me a few goes. I'm Matt Cooke from the team at Google. Yesterday I was upstairs with talking about search, and Wi-Fi was not my friend, so we're going to see how we go today. We're in the cave of the room, so hopefully it could be better. Let's just go though. So, what are we here this morning to talk about? And thank you very much for coming. I know it's kind of early, especially if you were here last night in the bar, maybe. But this is who I am. So it's Matt Cooke. I'm at the News Lab at Google, which is a team of people with either journalism experience or a passion for journalism who work with journalists, publishers, and organizations around the world to talk about the future of news, and also to see how Google and YouTube can work with journalists to support them in some of their efforts. So there's my the Twitter handle, but the more important details on there, rather than my own handle, are the two web links there. So you've got the google.com/mediatools website, which is a really, really useful resource. Good place to go for search, YouTube, maps, and anything you can think of that could help you in creating digital content. If you get stuck on something, so say you're using a Google map in a blog or an article, or even on a TV piece, then the mediatools@google.com email address is a good place to go for help. Not great for a breaking or urgent issue. For that, you can still use your local PR contacts. But for this is something that perhaps you're doing a feature piece or you're doing something that requires a bit more thought, then that's a good place to go if you get stuck. So, I've been to many of these sessions before. We tried this yesterday with some success, but I find when you come to sessions like this, it can be quite hard to see how you can actually practically use it in your everyday journalism. So I'm going to force you to today by giving you a story that is very familiar if you're from part of Europe where I'm from, the UK, bad weather. And throughout the presentation, I'd ask you just at the back of your mind to think about how you could use some of these tools to tell this story. So the story is basically bad weather in Northern Europe, so bad that someone has told Sky News that there was warm beer in their pub. So it's a pretty big story. But seriously, it's a Sky News story that could happen every few months, something that journalists around Europe will face at some point, a story like this. How do you tell this story with the tools we're going to walk through? And these are the tools we're going to look at specifically. YouTube, which hopefully many of you are familiar with, and Google Hangouts, Google Plus Hangouts, which I think is a really useful way of talking about debating with people at home. But first, let's start with the quiz. Who can tell you what year this is? It's the year that Angela Merkel came to power, Prince Charles got married, and the girl band at the end were sadly about to separate. Any guesses from people in the room what year this was? No guesses at all. 90s? Later? Okay, pub quiz over. No one wins a prize this time. It was 2005. A big year because also the year that YouTube was founded. So we're coming up to our 10th birthday. And in the time that YouTube was founded to today, things have changed quite a lot. And there's some pretty impressive statistics to go along with where YouTube is today. So 1 billion unique users per month use YouTube. Surprisingly to some, 80% of those users are actually outside of the US. It's clear it's a product that a lot of younger people engage with. In fact, 18 to 34-year-olds, this is where they come more so than TV. And I think when you talk about people younger than 18, that's something it's a daily destination for them. It's just something they just know already. It's not a new thing. It's something they're just used to. And a third of searches on YouTube are news-related. Again, something that people may be slightly surprised by. I think the idea of YouTube being a place where you can find fun, viral content is well known, but perhaps what less well known is the fact that you can find quality content on there, news content on there, crafted journalism on there, and some of that we'll talk about today. So this is go back 2 years ago. 2 years ago, 6% of traffic on YouTube was on mobile. That's now jumped to at least 40%, if not more. YouTube is enjoyed primarily on phones, tablets, also desktop, laptops, and now with things like Chromecast on your TV at home as well. I mean, I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves. But again, remember that most people will be watching YouTube content when they want to watch it on their mobile phone. So rather than someone tuning in at a specific time, this is literally when people are on their way to school, on their way to work, perhaps when they wake up, as they're going to bed, different times, different audiences you're getting than you would for traditional TV broadcasts. And I think with that comes a real opportunity for creators and for publishers. 5,000 plus news partners around the world are using YouTube, ranging from the global brands like CNN and ITN to some of the now well-known brands that started out online, such as Vice and BuzzFeed. So we're going to go through some of these steps. Building a home, talking about some news formats that work, talking about uploading, search and discovery. How do you promote and retain viewers on your YouTube channel? How do you measure your success? A lot of people will say, this is going to take me a lot of time to do these videos. Why? And hopefully you can see some analytics for it. And also at the end, we're going to talk about Google Hangouts, which for me are a really good way of engaging with the audience. So rather than just broadcasting to them all the time, actually including them in the discussion as well. So let's start with building a home. And I'm going to use examples that are all real. I'm from the UK, so apologies if this feels too UK, but I've tried to give some examples from all over Europe. But this is the BBC News YouTube channel. So when you, as an unsubscribed user, go onto the BBC News YouTube channel, this is what you see. So first off, you can see quite a big, bold banner at the top, Live the Story. So this is their core mission statement. They're really telling their audience what this place is for. This is for people to come and get a different type of news. You can see on the top banner as well, where you have the icon saying social, that they're really making YouTube part of their social mix. So rather than seeing YouTube as just something they do at the end, it's really core to their content, and it's really core to their social media offering as well. So they have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and of course the subscribe to YouTube channel. BBC News is verified, and I'll show you a link how to do that for your YouTube channels if you want to. But the main thing that strikes me here is the fact they've got a welcome video. If you're an unsubscribed user of BBC News and you find the BBC News YouTube channel, normally, in most cases, people will just go there and see whatever's your top story, and maybe they're engaged with it, maybe they're not. If it's something they're really interested in, then you're lucky because they're going to click on this video straight away. If it's something that doesn't float their boat, then who knows, they may click on to the next YouTube channel. What the welcome video, the subscriber welcome video does is really gives a shop window to your channel. So people will click onto the YouTube channel and see exactly what your channel is all about. Now, fingers crossed, I'm going to show you, hopefully, what this looks like. Dun, dun, dun. So I'm going to go to a video. This is what greets you on the BBC News YouTube channel, which I think is a really good example. I should say, actually, my background is I was at BBC News for 8 years, but this is not my work. This is 3 years ago I left, so I'm kind of old school now, but this is what greets you. And think about how different this is to a TV news bulletin or to something you may expect from a broadcaster such as BBC.
Hey, this is the BBC News official YouTube channel. Check out the reasons why you should subscribe.
We'll be posting videos every day and when big stories break,
keeping you in the know 24/7.
We'll bring you the stories from around the world
that affect millions of people. and giving reports from the front line.
In the last couple of minutes, there was fire into the wall.
We'll take you behind the scenes with raw footage of events.
There's just been a lot of sustained gunfire.
And show you new ways to get to the heart of the story.
Suddenly, the firing started.
With journalists in more countries
Than any other.
international news broadcaster.
Situation here is now desperately violent.
Millions of you from around the world
are already sharing our stories.
He's got a good pair of lungs on, that's for sure.
Because the BBC is the most trusted news provider in the world.
Be part of our YouTube community.
Find the stories you like.
share them.
Comment on them.
And join the global conversation.
Now that's more than enough reason to click the subscribe button.
So I don't know about you, but I would subscribe to that channel. Obviously, not everyone can be the BBC. Not everyone has the same resources as the BBC. But I think that's a really good example to show you what you could do to welcome people. So how, in your organisation, or if you're a freelance journalist, how would you welcome people to your channel? It's talking about the issues you're covering on that channel. It's perhaps giving a bit of personality to that video, you being in that video perhaps, and also you telling the audience what they can expect and also how perhaps they can get involved as well. So you heard there people saying subscribe, tweet us, Facebook us. Lots of different ways for people at home or actually people on their mobile phones to think that it's a two-way conversation. Some other examples. This is Al Jazeera English. And rather than having a welcome video, for them, their main mission is they want people to watch their live stream. So in their welcome video, you've got here just the embed of their live footage. If you're someone who works in a newspaper or a blog and you do very limited video content at the moment, then there are really quick ways you could do a very short video, perhaps just filming it directly onto your YouTube channel, which is looking at your laptop, 30 seconds. Hey, welcome, this is the YouTube channel. Come back here next week. I'll be doing videos here every week. Something like that, that again you could share on Twitter or on Facebook, just telling people that your channel's here and it's for them to have a two-way conversation with you. Although Al Jazeera here have got the top banner, they've got a branded space, which is their newsroom. This could be an image of the area, the geographic area you're covering as a reporter, or an indication of the kind of stories people could watch on your channel too. Another neat trick, and this is something that The Economist is doing, is to update your banner with really regular, frequent news content. So obviously the story about Hillary Clinton is something that people who read The Economist will be interested in, so therefore they've kept the banner up to date with regular news. Once you have your channel, and let's say once you started creating content, maybe it's stuff you've created a few months ago, maybe it's stuff that you created all in one day, a good way to encourage people to watch that is to group it together on your channel. So some people call this shelving, which again, going back to this shop window idea, you're literally putting your best videos, your best products on display for people to find. So here The Economist is going through some examples. The Economist Explains. It's called an entire playlist or an entire shelf, The Economist Explains, again to give people at home or on their mobile phones a clue as to what these kind of videos are going to be about. The Economists are also really good at data graphics. They're quite well known for it. So they do videos just with graphics and maps and charts. For their audience, quite geeky to some, but actually very detailed analysis for others. And again, they've put this into a playlist, a sort of a shelf, video graphics is what they've called it. And underneath that you can see The Economist interviews, another hint at what they are trying to encourage. Really good examples. Going back to Al Jazeera, they've picked another way to shelve their content. This is another form of playlist you can do. Again, this doesn't all have to be content that you've created. It could be stuff that, if you're covering a region, could be content that's coming from lots of different sources, but you've just decided to playlist. It could be content that is years old, or could be stuff that is just brand new. And again, people are showing you here issues around women's rights, 20 videos about women's rights. Again, going back over their archive perhaps. So let's move on to some of the other formats that we see. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of my favourite ones that I've looked at over the last months and years. And the first is short formats for on-the-go audiences. So we know that 40% or more of YouTube views come from mobile phones. It's people that perhaps sat on a train, on a bus, or maybe they're watching their YouTube screen whilst they're doing something else. As a second screen experience. So short formats perhaps could be a very good way to start seeing what your audience likes, seeing what your audience enjoys and engages with. Vice News, which many of you will know, is a YouTube brand that came online a few years back and has really made a name for itself and is challenging traditional broadcasters by knowing the audience on YouTube and by really tailoring their content. So rather than just having content that would go on TV, this is really made for online video content. It's made for people to watch on their mobile phones. It's made for people to really understand in the environment that they want to. So this is one example which I'm going to jump and show you. It's the Daily Roundup, where they show 30 to 60 second clips. And this is something they were doing in almost like a news bulletin style, but on issues that they care about and also on a format and a way that they know their audiences will engage with. So this is Vice News. Take a look at this example.
It's Thursday, February 27th, and here's some of the news beyond the headlines. Venezuelans suspect that their government is behind the blocking of an app used by tens of thousands of protesters to communicate with each other anonymously. Last Thursday, Venezuela's largest internet provider blocked Zello, which lets people use their phones like walkie-talkies, and many believe it was done as a part of a government crackdown on a wave of crippling demonstrations. The app has been the top download not only in Venezuela, but also in Ukraine, where protests continue. Zello says it hopes to have an unblockable version for sale soon. The manufacturers and sellers of face masks are
Okay, just to interrupt Vice News there. So if you see, who noticed at the beginning there was a click to subscribe annotation at the top of the video? So again, if I'll just jump back for those who didn't see it, you can see new videos every day. Click here to subscribe, encouraging people to come back, encouraging people to click on the Vice News channel and get videos every day. One thing I think, just from a visual perspective, what they've done here with a really nice graphic on this video is they're really telling the audience, they're really trying to keep their attention. They're saying, this is the story that you're on now, these are the stories that are coming up. Really nice visual cues to get the audience to engage. And let's see as well what they do at the end of the video, if I can jump to it. Okay. So we're just jumping ahead now to the end of the news bulletin.
At 2%. The drop came as Western governments, including the United States, said they would rethink their relationship with Uganda. Norway and Denmark have already said they'll hold back on delivering aid. Check out the Vice News YouTube channel to watch our latest original reporting and documentaries from around the world.
Nosotros no nos salemos de nuestras trincheras. Nos van a matar porque se nos acaben los tiros.
So the war now is a war against a Muslim. You know, nothing can stop us from prayer.
Okay, so right at the end there we saw at least, I think, like 3 videos, 3 promotions for extra videos, which are a longer format. So they've used a short format to draw attention, keep people in the conversation, and at the end, they're saying, right, you like this? Here's 3 longer format documentaries in the same style as this about something really different. So really engaging the audience. What about longer formats though? And there's obviously scope to do this on YouTube as well. I think the best thing about YouTube is that there's scope for you to see what works. Longer format documentaries can work in that, say, you have a short piece and you have lots of rushes of your interview and you want to really just give an audience or a home to those. So sometimes you'll see a 2-minute clip used in a full TV broadcast or a full radio broadcast. But if you want to give the audience the full extended interview, then YouTube's a good place to put that. Or also a place for you to put projects you spent a long time on. You can put them on YouTube and people will go back and find the content when it suits them. And of course, YouTube also is known for the more quirky novelty pieces that stand out and in some cases go viral. So a lot of people say, how do you make videos go viral? It's down to the journalist, it's down to the content, it's the storytelling, it's not the platform as such. And there are some good examples where local stories, so local to the US, for example, have gone viral. I'm going to show you one now which comes from a local US TV station that has amassed over 4.2 million views since it was put onto YouTube. So let's take a look at this now. Perhaps content that is lighter than the last two examples, but gives you an idea of the kind of content that stands out. It's a bit different, and again, it's appealing to the audience which are on the go. Remember, 40% or more of them will be watching this on their mobile phones.
A band of brothers. New tonight at 6, News Center 5's Jack Harper introduces us to some young boys from Bridgewater who are truly wise beyond their years.
Steady, steady, steady. In the middle of it all, Danny Keefe, Bridgewater first grader, water boy for the Williams School 5th grade football team. Danny always wears a tie and jacket. He has some speech issues. A few other kids had been picking on him about that, and yesterday his team dressed up to show they don't approve.
We heard that Danny was going to...
Okay, a very sweet story, an aha moment to start the morning. But videos like this can really transport on social media. People love human interest stories as they do to find out about the hard news issues as well. So on YouTube, by using shelving, as we talked about a moment ago, you and your page and your channel, you're really able to do different tones without discrediting different parts of your content. There's a space for your hard documentaries and your long-form interviews and your short-form pieces. There's also a space on YouTube for you to put perhaps more novelty, quirky features. This is just one from a local TV station in the US, but it gives you another example of how you could use YouTube in a different way, perhaps. And then the fourth kind of format that we've seen really, I wouldn't say they were explode really over the last few years, is live formats. And lots of the times we're seeing people during elections using YouTube just to live stream from the newsroom. We're seeing people use live streaming from events, from conferences, and also in some cases, such as Channel 5 in Ukraine, as a way just to reach people. So live streaming on YouTube is something that is open to partners on there and also for individual journalists if you're signed into the partnership scheme or if you have a YouTube channel that uses Google Hangouts. There are a number of ways for you to use live, and it's something that people are getting more used to and they kind of demand on certain occasions. This is from NPR News, and it's a year or so old, but this gives you an idea of what, for them, is their YouTube thought on content. So, as well as the short and long formats, the live, and also the quirky novelty, this is what they say works for them on YouTube. Let's just look at them quickly. So, number one, top left, is place explainers. So, a video piece literally explaining an issue or a topic or a location. Number two, which taps into the story we just watched about the young schoolboy in America, crowd pleasers, things that people will have an emotional connection to. Number three, curiosity stimulators. So if you're in local reporting or local news, is there a landmark or an issue or a topic that everyone in your area talks about, that everyone really always asks the same questions about? What is that building? Things like that. Number 4, news explainers. We're seeing a lot of that around things like when governments do budgets, or if there are new policies or new legislation coming through. Breaking news, feel-good smilers, topical buzzers, which are things like the gold and white or the blue and black dress, things like that come up every now and again on social media. It's about jumping on those kind of issues when relevant to you and your brand and talking about them. And number 9 is something that, my background is TV, and I think is really key and is often forgotten when you see publishers doing YouTube videos. It's all about the pictures. If there's a way for you to get access to decent images or to film your piece in an interesting way, that will do a lot of the work for you. If a lot of it is people in suits sat talking at you, then you can kind of guess the engagement that would get compared to something with a lot of visual cues and a lot of visual imagery. So we're going to talk a bit now about, once your videos are in place, how you help search and how you help discover that. We're going to go through a couple of examples. Let's talk about metadata first. So when you are happy with your video, it's got things like your annotations on there. Maybe at the end it's got a subscriber queue. Maybe at the end it's also got, remember what Vice did, a promo for the next video. It's time to upload it to YouTube for the world to see it and take a look, which is exciting, hurrah. But it's really a time as well when you're uploading to get things right and to really optimize your video to help people find it. Title is number 1. Similar to writing a headline for a newspaper or your blog post or a tweet, it's about the headline which you give a bit of help to. It's about having an interesting and engaging thumbnail. On YouTube now, you can pick or upload a picture to have your thumbnail. Normally, it would have just been whatever was the one that YouTube picked for you. Now you can tailor that. So Vice News, as you can see, have embedded a logo onto an image, and every Vice News video you see has that front page to it. Or also things like the BBC News example there. It's an image that's quite intriguing. What is this image of black and white? Is it a helicopter? It looks like maybe an exciting piece of footage perhaps, so it's something that's dragging people in. And also the subscription is key, so some good examples here and less good examples. So subscribe to Vice News here at the top, at the bottom, describing exactly what people are going to get when they click on this link. For me, it's better than the one in the middle, which is just subscribe and nothing else. And perhaps not necessarily a very engaging thumbnail. So the title, description, keywords, which are when you upload your video and you are encouraged to put them at the bottom where you can put in words that are associated with that story, are really vital. And they are video identifiers for search on YouTube. So our algorithm on YouTube relies heavily on metadata to sort and arrange videos. And it's really important, especially early on. So when you've uploaded a video, it's important to get it right first time by putting lots of metadata in there. In this case, Ukraine. In other cases, it would have been Yanukovych or helicopter or breaking, things like this. So metadata is important, but title is number 1. Again, going back to that shop window sense. Videos rank higher if they pertain to a trending current or event. So what you're seeing here is an example that some of you may recognize of an earthquake in Los Angeles, when there was a cable news channel doing, I think, the morning news, and they were sitting there going, "Hi everyone, welcome to the news," and then an earthquake started. And they stayed at their desk, and at one moment they actually get under their desk. It's, apart from the fact they should get medals for broadcasting, it's a minute video which is engaging. It's interesting to watch as a viewer, obviously. Recency is something that, again, we factor into how we place videos. The fact that the LA earthquake happened that day meant that videos about the LA earthquake were higher up in terms of the algorithm and people were more able to find them. So recency is an issue. So again, breaking news and stories that are trending, stories that are happening are really important to, if it suits you as a journalist, to get your content out about that at that time. And then the last kind of points we've seen metadata and recency is user-generated cues. So again, this helps in terms of people finding your video. If more people are subscribing, liking, viewing your video, others are more likely to find it as well. This really plays into why some videos and why some publishers really like to hammer the point home that this is not just me broadcasting to you, this is a two-way conversation, because they know that by people engaging with their videos, more people are likely to find it. And also, by the way, if your video is good and people are engaging with it, they're more likely to share it with people that they know. And we all know if we get restaurant recommendations from a friend, you're more likely to trust that because they're your friend. So sharing videos socially is a really important tip. I'm going to show you now how the Young Turks do this. Again, this is an American channel, but they focus on social media quite usefully for this example. So take a look at how many cues they give. They're actually having a conversation with their audience.
The storm is coming. And the storm has come. Ambassador Jenny, what do you have for me?
Lauren wants to know if you have any guilty pleasures, such as crocheting or foosball?
Well, Lauren, if I did, it certainly would be crochet or foosball. Who plays crochet? Lauren, I love you, but where are you from? Okay. Oh, I do glad we do come to our country club and play crochet. Is it crochet or croquet? I don't even know.
Yeah, knitting.
Okay, so very informal style, not suited to all kinds of news, admittedly, and also tailored for a younger generation of people who perhaps want a more comical look at things. But you can see on the videos, just whilst we're here actually, click here to follow the Young Turks on Twitter. Down the bottom, an annotation to go to their website, giving people lots of cues to follow them and engage with them in different ways and on different platforms. So they have someone here reading out tweets from around the world. Again, you know, questions to this guy who's the presenter, who's not a household name, but someone that viewers of this channel know and they're familiar with. And again, really, rather than just saying we're just here and that's the only place you can engage with us, it's telling your audience that there's a family of places people can come in and engage with you. So that's one example from the US. I want to show you this one from BBC. BBC News have launched a new TV show, which is mid-mornings, and it's a change because the news channel at the time would normally be people watching someone behind a desk reading the news. And they're trying something a bit different, which is focused around one of their main radio presenters. It's launched, and the main remit of the channel is to really have, this program is to have a proper conversation. So this is how Victoria, Derbyshire is encouraging people at home to engage with her and her content on the BBC News YouTube channel.
Hello, I'm Victoria, Derbyshire, and welcome to our new programme. First, the main news so far this morning. So why should you watch our programme here on YouTube? Give me 1 minute, I'll explain why. We'll have original stories, exclusive interviews and beautifully made films, which we'll share on the BBC News' YouTube channel. Yes! We'll have live audience debates from across the UK discussing the issues and stories that mean the most to you. Straight answers, are you getting what you need?
No.
Okay, and we'll be using social media to find stories, to talk to you and to keep you updated with what's going on the programme. So subscribe here on YouTube and watch every weekday, 9:15 to 11, BBC Two, BBC News Channel and online.
Okay, so I made the point earlier that not everyone is a BBC, not everyone has the resources of BBC, but I think that's, again, another example of the person behind the content, so in this case Victoria, talking to the audience at home. And that's something that I would suggest any reporter, whatever your patch or your remit, you could do in a format or in a style. Another great way to keep people engaged is to build playlists. This really encourages people to continue to watch your content. This is one example. People are just grouping all their content together to encourage people to watch more and more. And it's important to do this because you can watch more and more of your own kind of content. So in this case, it's WNYC, which is, I think, a radio station in the US, or a brand in the US certainly. And they're playlisting all of their content in one playlist. Again, if you're looking to get content from a variety of sources, then you can have a playlist of lots of different sources from different newsrooms or from different parts of the country or different issues. We've seen a lot about annotations so far. This is just a hint as to what is coming, if not already here. So annotations are evolving into these info cards, which annotations are great, but don't always work well or look as good as they can do on mobile phones. So info cards, which are rolling out, allow you as the viewer to see in nicer detail, in a more visually stimulating way, web links from the publisher, links to other videos, or also social buttons to find content from that publisher or provider. So this is one example of what it will look like, and this is rolling out over the coming months. We've looked at this Victoria Derbyshire example already, but just to sort of hammer home the point about promoting and retaining viewership, we're really encouraging people as a publisher, which is you, to subscribe to your channel. We know that when people subscribe to a channel, they're more likely to get your content when they log into YouTube. When you upload a video as a publisher, in the first 24 to 48 hours, most of your views will most likely come from those who are subscribing to your channel. That obviously is important. If you're a newer channel, then you'll need to really try hard to get people to subscribe. I would say subscribe is one element. It's social media now as well. It's about putting your content out there. It's embedding videos on blogs. A lot of people who are covering daily news, if you're writing articles, sometimes a video you've created a few months back is as relevant to drag into that article as it was the day you created that video. So it's about utilizing your archive as well. A bit about user-generated content.
Eyewitness on the scene, Paul Ferguson in London today. Paul, I understand that you were in a building across the way. What exactly did you see?
Well, a few minutes before 8 o'clock our local time, I was just happening to look out of the window and thought, crikey, what's going on there? There was a flash in the sky. They're building a very tall block of flats, which is apartments, by the river there, and a helicopter had clipped the crane on the very top of the building and then plummeted immediately to the ground, exploding.
We know that the pilots were warned about the crane in that area. Could you detect any attempt?
So in this case, this is ABC News in New York using UGC, user-generated content, taken in Vauxhall in London. So it was a helicopter crashed into a skyscraper that was being built, crashed onto the road below, and there were fatalities. It's a horrible story, visually a strong story, and lots of people at that time in the morning commuting to work. It's right by a massive train station. A lot of people had mobile phones capturing that video. If you're a news organisation or a publisher or a freelance journalist and you want to use user-generated content that you see on YouTube, and there's lots of examples from anything from war zones to protest marches to just speeches that were made by politicians, say, then the onus is on you to credit the owner of that video. YouTube has a license to distribute the video, but it's you, the YouTube user, who has to credit it because the YouTubers who uploaded it, they own the content. There's a full list of details about copyright and UGC content on YouTube, which if you're interested, I can send around the link or can direct you to on YouTube after this. But it's worth taking a look if you know that you're likely to be using user-generated content, stuff that you, yourselves, or your journalists haven't found themselves. Another word about promoting and retaining viewership. This is one example. Remember we said earlier about as a piece you could do, what is that building in the area we live in? Just tapping into that curiosity of people online. This is an example which I won't play, but it's from local radio. This, just to tell you quickly, that it's a house on a road that everyone in that community for years has said, who lives there? What is it? And actually, they do a piece where you open the door and it's not a house, it's a power generator. I've made it sound a bit boring, but but actually the way that the journalist has made the video, it's fascinating and you're gripped. It's like Jurassic Park. This is one video made by a station that is in partner with a lot of stations around the rest of the US in this case. There'll be examples perhaps in Italy or in France or UK where you have a hub in Rome or in London, but you have smaller satellite newsrooms elsewhere. This is one good way of sharing that video content. In the back end, you can embed the video onto various different websites, and it means all your views are collated in one place. Really interesting as well, the top right where there's sort of a colourful graph. This is, when it comes to YouTube analytics, my favourite aspect. You're able to compare other videos not created by you, but of the same or similar length, and see what the viewer attention is on them. So you're able to see how many seconds do you get from your audience. You'll be surprised because it will be low. We say in advertising sometimes that you have 5 or 7 seconds to get people. So what are your first 5 and 7 seconds? In this video of a house, it was his scripting. It was, what's behind this house? It was drawing people in a way that made people really intrigued. If yours, going back to what we were saying earlier, if yours is a man in a suit behind a desk like me, 5 to 7 seconds of me talking, I would turn over. What is it about your video that's going to stand out? And again, it's the title, it's the description, it's the first 5 to 7 seconds. And the exciting thing for me is that those 5 to 7 seconds are completely down to you as a journalist. You're the person who crafts that content. And you can see another example of the retain graph. Actually, that's the one there. You can see along the blue and the green, so we're comparing videos. This is a dashboard of what you can see on the analytics. You can get a really good idea of where your audience are, who they are, the demographics, where they're coming from as well. So are they coming from different websites? Are they coming from social media? And then at the top left, you can see proper engagement figures, which only you as the owner of that channel will be able to see. Let's just see in this graph here, actually, 3.9 seconds was the average view duration, I think, unless that's minutes. So if it is seconds, that's quite brutal, isn't it? You've got 3 seconds to get people's attention. Remember, again, 40% or more will be watching on their mobile phone. So it's got to be good. So that's the section on YouTube. I'm just conscious of time. We've got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to go through Google Hangouts, but does anyone have any questions now that you want to talk about YouTube, or do you want to wait to the end? A sense from the room. Yeah?
The last one, Mission Was Success.
Yeah.
Where did you...
So this is YouTube analytics that you, as the owner of the channel, will see. So the question was, where do you find this? This is when you have a channel, you'll be able to find that on the analytics section. The only public bit of your channel to members of the public is the view count and your likes and dislikes. And of course, your comments. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead, and if you have any questions, and let's try and make a couple of minutes at the end just to go through them. We're going to go on to something a bit different now. For me, this is something that is as applicable to major broadcasters and national print publishers as it is to campaigners, freelance journalists, bloggers, members of the public. This is a rather regal scene. This is not the Hotel Brufani last year. This is going back a few more years to, I think this is meant to be an English tea room. Not a Starbucks, but like a traditional scene. This is actually a debating scene. What do we notice about the debate? Well, everyone's either got a wig on, or perhaps, yes, everyone's got a wig on. Everyone looks affluent. Everyone's white. Mainly male faces there. And we can tell by the surrounding, it's a nice environment. So we can tell that debating here would have been fairly limited in what they would have talked about, fairly limited perspectives and experiences. Debating, as Google sees it, has changed. And I want to show you quickly now one example of what we mean about that.
Of the freedom of speech, of the freedom of assembly, the right to protest far right.
Most social movements become social movements when they appear in a public square. These are informal spaces of deliberation and communication.
You can show up and say what's on your mind without fear of having the wrong view or wrong idea.
In ancient Athens, they called it the agora. It was a marketplace in exchanging ideas. In the 18th century, coffee houses in England did some of the same things. The French salons invited aristocrats, philosophers, and sometimes even kings, but the vast peasantry was left out. Every public has been limited by race, by gender, by class. But we have the possibility now of a virtual public square where ordinary people can deliberate and find common citizenship across not just ethnicity and race and gender, but across nations.
We are living in an era of global communication.
How can we have real international action?
To reduce our carbon emissions.
To grow the economy.
To ensure kids get healthier lunches.
To bring peace to people.
To preserve internet freedom.
To help raise awareness in education systems across the world.
To realize the world we want.
The old public squares never go away, but the question becomes, what are the possibilities now?
Okay, who's heard of Hangouts on Air? One person, thank you, Garrett. Hangouts, for me, are a really unique tool that allow you as a publisher to have a debate in the same way a mainstream broadcaster would, without the studios, without the million cameras, without the satellite trucks. What we're seeing is Google Hangouts, a new informal way of reaching audiences, a really informal way of having a conversation. In Europe, the first time we saw this happening on a larger scale was during the general election in the Netherlands in 2012, when I think I'm right in saying that every party in the Netherlands took part in a Google Hangout with NOS, the national broadcaster there, and also with a newspaper brand. You can see straight away it's people in their offices, people with their headphones on. It's a video call. It's people dialing in where they are, sometimes on their mobile phones. It's much more of an informal atmosphere that is designed to reach audiences online. Hangouts are a great way to engage younger people who want to have their say. It's a great way to bring the conversation a bit alive in a new style, in a way that is a bit unexpected. Everyone has seen a televised TV debate. Hangouts are a much more informal way of doing it. One of the reasons I like it is because the people that take part are people that don't normally get a voice. They're the people that aren't normally welcome on TV debates. In this case, you can have a video debate that lasts 10 minutes or 4 hours. It can be about any issue you want it to be about, and really importantly, people can watch it when they want. So you as the publisher, and this is you may recognise the guest in this one, this was a live event, so Angela Merkel took part and she was speaking to voters before an election. People underneath were in their, I think in one case, their office, their kitchen, people getting ready to go to work, people in a more informal, real style. The Mayor of Paris does this, or did do this every month. I'm not sure if she still does it now, but it's a way for her, as you can see, with limited technology, a laptop, and the black thing on top is a HD camera, which costs around €50. That allows her to have a two-way conversation with voters that normally would only get a chance every 3 years or so. In America, the President Obama and the First Lady taking part in them there, again, two-way conversations. But also we're seeing in the UK, for example, traditional print journalists getting involved as well. This is the Telegraph, going back some time now. They're talking about politics in one of their radio booths. It's not, you know, a well-lit TV studio. It's somewhere where they work. I want to give you some other examples. BBC News, this is in the corridor of New Broadcasting House. And you can see people underneath dialing in from Pakistan to talk about what it's like to be a woman in Pakistan, with Lise Doucette there. This is I think my favourite example ever though. This is Sky News. This is, if you know Sky News, it's a lovely looking TV channel, glitzy and glamorous. This is the real TV newsroom, which is a bit messier. And this is one of their correspondents having a proper discussion with 2 people from Israel, 2 people from Gaza City. Really engaging content. These are people he knew from previous stories he'd done. So he just messaged them on email or emailed them or Twittered them or something and said, do you want to have a video discussion with 2 people about the conflict? Yeah, okay, get on this link straight away. It was a live video that they were able to embed on the Sky News website, live. They were also able to tweet it out, to put it on Facebook, everywhere else. But really importantly as well, it's something that's recorded to their YouTube channel, which means Sky News at any point in the weeks later could say, if you're interested in the story, watch this debate we did a couple of weeks ago. So it's a essentially free way of recording live debate. You can have up to 10 windows, and as I said, it can go on for as long or as little as you want. And often we see with some examples, such as the Telegraph in the UK, they'll do a hangout, so it's recording live to their YouTube channel. First of all, they're embedding it on their website and they're tweeting it out. But also, once the video's done, they're able to download the YouTube debate as an MP4, upload it to their own edit suite, and make clips that they then put onto their own player or then their own websites. This is ITN, this is Channel 4 News, Christian Guru Murthy. Again, just to hammer home the point, this is a real newsroom because there's someone having their lunch in the top right who probably didn't realise he was on camera to a few people. Underneath them are professors and experts. This is going way back. This is the Leveson inquiry, which is a big story about ethics and journalism in the UK some years ago now. They knew that this court case was happening. They knew it was going to happen at some point. The judge would rule on this. They had great plans for what should happen when that happens. You know, who do we go to when we know we need to speak to an expert? They had 5 people in mind, all brilliant spokespeople from their universities. On television, they maybe would give 5 minutes for a debate on this, maybe. That would be highly unusual if it were as long as 5 minutes in the UK. And they certainly wouldn't get 5 people to come to the studio in London and talk for 5 minutes. What this allowed them to do is, the moment the story broke, at midday, the judge said, here's my ruling, they were able to get their correspondent, their presenter in this case, to sit in the newsroom in front of a laptop like I am and have a live recorded debate with 5 of the biggest names in the topic. And none of the 5 people had to travel anywhere. They all did it from their desks, from their offices, their studies. So of course they were happy to say, oh yeah, of course, rather than saying, I can't get down to London or my plans have changed. So again, it's a really good way of getting quick online content. We are seeing some examples where it's made for online, but it's actually now being used on television as well. This is STV, which is commercial TV in Scotland. During the debates around the Scottish referendum in October, they were using Google Hangouts to bring in people from smaller countries around Europe to talk about what it's like to be a smaller country in the EU. This case, they're talking to someone, which you can't really tell in this example, but it's an actor who appeared on The X-Men, I'm told, who's Scottish, lives in Switzerland and has really strong views on Scotland. That's their way of getting it in. Normally, he'd have to go to a bureau in Switzerland, or they'd have to hire a satellite truck to go to his house in Switzerland. This way, he sat in front of his laptop. I will go through quickly how you do it. We've got about 4 minutes left, so maybe I'll just jump ahead. It's relatively simple. You can plan them ahead. You can do some new and unique things, such as really make it suitable for online. You can encourage people who are watching to clap and applause along. Suitable for some kind of formats, not for all. And also, you can, on the right-hand side there, you can add video links. If you're doing this on Google+, you can also do it on YouTube. That's my ugly mug. I will show you quickly one example, which I think we've got time for. I'll be told off if we're not. This gives you a feeling of how broadcasters around Europe have used Google Hangouts. The interface is a bit old in this one, but it gives you a sense.
We opened a Google Hangout.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. Bonjour.
Welcome to the Channel 4 News Google Hangout.
Ja, hallo.
What can be done to preserve the America that works and to kickstart the America that doesn't?
La nostra Costituzione, che prima sentivo parlare della Costituzione più bella,
non la
che è la
buttare in
Costituzione che ripudia la guerra,
ti ho
e poi ci mandate in guerra che noi non vogliamo.
Für mich ist es das erste Mal, so ein Google Hangout zu machen und ich bedanke mich bei denen, die mitdiskutieren.
Ich wünsche mir auch von Herzen, dass die deutsche Aufnahmegesellschaft eine Mentalität entwickelt, die aufnimmt.
Secretary of State John Kerry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for all you've done to shed light on life in Syria.
Se non debelliamo l'evasione fiscale dal nostro paese non saremo mai competitivi con gli altri paesi europei.
J'ai voulu me joindre à vous quelques instants parce que je crois beaucoup à ce contact direct. On se parle, on se voit et ça rapproche.
I think it was really important that all of these candidates were seen on the same platform, looking at alternative ways to resolve potential disputes.
The user experience is definitely a lot better. We lose out if we don't at least join in.
Okay, so we went all over Europe there, which is good. But it shows you elections are a time when people tend to be using this kind of technology more and more frequently. So, going back to where we started, and thank you for those who are here at the very beginning, it was nice. We talked about a story about bad weather. How could these tools help you tell that story? Just quickly, YouTube, of course, breaking news footage, UGC content from people who are at home, a place to put and host extended rushes, Google Hangouts, a place to perhaps engage with the audience from remote locations. We talked about Switzerland, but also to follow up online your speed about the issues that matter. So we know that in some cases a big moment will happen, and it's a big breaking news moment. When the cameras of TV and normal journalists go away, that issue is still there locally. So this is a good way of having a TV or a live experience for those who want to still discuss the same issues. So very quickly, further support you will find on everything we discussed at the YouTube Help Center, support.google.com/YouTube. Great place to go if you want to look at having an account, what it means to be a partner. I'll go back because you're just about to take a photograph of that. This is what you'll find on the YouTube Partner Resource place as well. This is a place that you'll find from the Support Home website and gives you some really good examples of what other people and other creators are doing on YouTube. So I think we have maybe 1 minute for maybe a very, very quick question or two, if anyone has any. No? Okay, thank you very much for being here this morning, and hope I'll see you over the next couple of days at the festival. Thank you. Bye.